At 24 years old, Penny Hardaway was already an NBA star. A finals appearance, 2 first-team All-NBA selections, and a third-place finish in MVP voting. It seemed he was destined to become a legend. But then the knee problems started. Surgeries, loss of speed, and a career that should have been great began to fall apart. The strangest part is that Penny actually managed to come back and show superstar-level play again. But that was the last glimpse of his former self. What happened to Penny Hardaway? And why did one of the most talented basketball players of his generation never reach the pinnacle? Watch through to the end. If, like me, you enjoy looking back at the great NBA legends of past decades, and you're interested in their true stories and little-known facts that are rarely talked about, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps the channel grow and makes it possible to bring you more videos like this. Thank you. Now, let's continue. In the mid-90s, Penny Hardaway was considered one of the most dangerous players in the NBA. A tall point guard who could score, dish out assists, and run the offense as if he saw the court several seconds ahead. At 24, he had already reached the NBA Finals, made the All-NBA First Team 2 years in a row, and finished third in MVP voting. And then, his career began to unravel. Not in a single day, not after one game. First, a minor injury, then surgery, then another problem. And each time, it seemed like Penny would still have time to come back. The scariest part of this story is that we can pinpoint quite clearly the moment when a future superstar started turning into a player who was constantly trying to find his former self. But before that happened, Penny Hardaway showed the NBA just how incredible a player of his height could be. He grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. In high school, Hardaway didn't look like a typical guard. At about 6 feet 7 inches, he had skills usually expected from much shorter players. He could handle the ball, create plays for teammates, attack the rim, and take over the game himself when needed. At the University of Memphis, his talent became obvious to the entire country. But his path to the NBA was unusual. In the 1993 draft, the Golden State Warriors selected Hardaway with the 3rd overall pick. However, on draft day, he never even played for that team. His rights were sent to the Orlando Magic in a trade that later became one of the most important decisions in franchise history. In Orlando, Hardaway met the man who was supposed to be the other half of one of the most dynamic duos of the 90s. Shaquille O'Neal was already a huge star. Penny was just beginning, and it quickly became clear that the rookie was capable of much more than just helping Shaq. In his debut season, Hardaway averaged 16 points and 6.6 assists per game. He immediately made the all-rookie first team and helped Orlando reach the playoffs for the first time. But the next season changed the scale of expectations. In the 1994-95 season, Hardaway averaged 20.9 points and 7.2 assists per game. Orlando won 57 games. Penny made his first All-Star appearance and was named to the All-NBA First Team. And then, something happened that almost no one expected from such a young franchise. Orlando ran through the playoffs and reached the NBA Finals. Along the way, the Magic beat the Chicago Bulls, then faced the Houston Rockets. The finals ended painfully for Orlando. Houston swept the series. But even after the loss, there was almost no sense that Hardaway's time had passed. On the contrary, Penny was young, Shaq was young, Orlando was young. It seemed like this team would get many more chances, and the next season only reinforced that feeling. Early in the season, Shaquille O'Neal got injured, and Hardaway had to take on much more offensive responsibility. He didn't crumble under the pressure. He did the opposite. In November, Penny averaged 27 points, 6.5 assists, and nearly 6 rebounds per game. Orlando started the season with a 17-5 record. The team ended up winning 60 games. Hardaway averaged 21.7 points and 7.1 assists. For the second straight year, he was named to the All-NBA First Team and finished third in MVP voting. This was no longer a story about a promising young player. Penny Hardaway was among the best basketball players on the planet. But right at that moment, a detail appears in his story that couldn't be truly appreciated at the time: the knee. During the 1996 playoffs, Hardaway developed serious issues after an incident with Joe Dumars. He kept playing, but later said that after that injury, his explosiveness was never the same. He needed surgery in the offseason. And that was only the first serious warning sign. Because for a player like Penny, losing even a small fraction of speed could be critical. His game wasn't built solely on height and skill. He needed the ability to change direction sharply, accelerate, get past the first defender, and create space for a pass or shot. The knee started taking exactly that away. And then came another blow. Shaquille O'Neal left Orlando and signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now Penny had to become the team's lead player, and that happened at a moment when his own body was already demanding caution. In the fall of 1996, problems with his left knee worsened. Hardaway missed games, then underwent arthroscopic surgery for cartilage damage. He returned. But the pain never fully went away. New issues emerged in the back of the knee, restrictions appeared, and he had to miss games. Yet Penny remained a star. In 1997, Orlando made the playoffs again, and there, Hardaway reminded everyone who he had been before the injuries. The series against the Miami Heat became one of the last great moments of his career in the fullest sense. In one game, Penny scored 42 points. In the next, 41. 2 straight games against a Pat Riley team, 2 40-point performances. And this is where the story becomes especially cruel, because the viewer already knows what comes next. At that moment, no one knew. On the court, it was still the same Penny Hardaway, tall, fast, versatile, a player who could score himself while controlling the entire offense. But the knee kept breaking down that picture. In the 1997-98 season, the problems became even more serious. Hardaway missed a significant portion of the season due to another injury to his left knee and surgery. He played just 19 games. Even so, fans voted him as an all-star starter again. That says a lot about his status. A guy barely playing, yet fans still wanted to see him among the best. Still, his body wouldn't allow him to return to his former level. Then came the lockout-shortened 1998-99 season. Hardaway managed to play all 50 games of the regular season. It looked like a chance to start over. He was back on the floor. He could play again. Orlando finished the regular season with one of the best records in the Eastern Conference. But the old ease was gone. After that season, Penny decided to leave Orlando. The next stop was Phoenix. On paper, it looked almost perfect. A new team, a new city, and Jason Kidd alongside him. Phoenix expected to have an elite guard duo. Hardaway was supposed to become a big star again, and in his first season, hope really appeared. He averaged 16.9 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game. Phoenix won 53 games. In the playoffs, Penny showed once more that the player from Orlando still lingered inside him. Against the San Antonio Spurs, he recorded a triple-double in the series-clinching game: 17 points, 13 assists, and 12 rebounds. Phoenix advanced. Then they faced the Los Angeles Lakers. And there, Hardaway met his former partner, Shaquille O'Neal. But now they stood on opposite sides of the floor. Phoenix lost the series. Still, for Penny, it looked like the start of a new phase. He was healthy enough to play at a high level, and it seemed that if he got just one more season, everything could change. But that was exactly when the injury occurred that became one of the worst of his career. In the 2000 playoffs, Hardaway injured his left knee after a collision with David Robinson. He kept playing through pain. After the season, he had surgery. and then another. And in 2001, doctors performed a microfracture procedure. The consequences for Hardaway were devastating. He later said that he didn't fully understand how serious the surgery and recovery would be. After the procedure, his quadriceps weakened significantly. Recovery took months. And when Penny returned, the problem was no longer just in the knee itself. His entire body had changed. When you spend years trying to protect an injured leg, your movement changes, the load changes, speed changes, confidence changes. And for a basketball player who built his entire career on explosion and motion, that's nearly catastrophic. In the 2000-01 season, Hardaway played just 4 games. 4. A player who had finished third in MVP voting just a few years earlier essentially missed the entire season. But he came back again. In 2001-02, Penny managed to play 80 games. That was a rare moment of stability after years of problems. He even started the season fairly well. In November, Hardaway was averaging nearly 20 points per game, adding over 5 rebounds and 4 assists. But Phoenix was gradually changing. Jason Kidd left. Stephon Marbury arrived. Later came Joe Johnson. Penny's role diminished. For the first time in his career, he had to face not only injuries, but also the new reality of the NBA. He was no longer the undisputed leader. And then, the final phase began. Phoenix, New York, Miami. Teams changed, but one problem remained: the knees. Penny could no longer consistently play the way he used to. His career continued for a few more years, but gradually turned into a series of attempts to hold on in the league. And this brings us to the central question of this story. What did the NBA lose? We can't say for certain that Hardaway would have become the greatest player of his generation. No one can prove that future. But the facts speak for themselves. At 24, he was already a 2-time All-NBA first-team selection. He reached the NBA Finals, finished third in MVP voting, made 4 straight All-Star appearances. And all of that happened before he turned 25. After that came years of surgeries, missed games, and attempts to bring back the old Penny. His career NBA stats no longer reflect the magnitude of the player he could have become. Over his career, Hardaway played 704 games and averaged 15.2 points, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. But if you look only at those numbers, you miss the main point. His story didn't end when he stopped being great. It changed the moment his body no longer allowed him to remain the player he had already become. And yet, Penny didn't disappear. After the NBA, he returned to school and earned his university degree in 2003. Later, he became more involved with young players and basketball in Memphis. And then he returned there in an entirely different role. Not as a player trying to prove he could still step onto the court, as a coach. That's perhaps the most unusual part of the whole story. The NBA took away the years that could have been the best of his career, but it didn't take basketball away from him. Today, when people remember the greatest players of the 90s, Penny Hardaway's name sometimes appears alongside much more famous ones, and that's fair. But he should be remembered not only as a man unlucky with injuries. Penny Hardaway was a true superstar. His window of greatness was just much shorter than everyone expected. And perhaps that's why the question about him still lingers. What if his knees had held up for another 10 years? We'll never know the answer. But that's precisely why Penny Hardaway's story remains one of the most painful stories of the 1990s NBA. If you're interested in real stories of players from that era, whom basketball lifted to the top and then forced to walk a completely different path, be sure to check out other videos on our channel. Their links will appear on screen right now.